Arepas, arepas, arepas. Try to say that 7 times fast. It's very hard. Hello again, chefs. My name is Sasha, and I'm your host for this episode of Alt Baking Bootcamp with Well+Good. Today, you and I are going to make arepas. Traditionally, you can find them in Colombia or Venezuela, or even all around New York City. And we're gonna make my family's special version of them today, which is very simple, very straightforward, and can be enjoyed in many different ways. All you need to do is get some pre-cooked corn flour, which you can find at your local market. It's what they would typically use to make corn tortillas. And then I like to add a little bit of starch. So you could do cornstarch, you could do arrowroot starch, you could do tapioca starch, really any starch that you might have on hand. And we'll just combine those two together. And you're gonna wanna boil some water. Once it reaches a rolling boil, you can transfer it into a jar and add some salt. Oh, that's hot. Don't forget, safety first. So, I've got a beautiful mason jar here that should be able to hold the heat. Once you've got your water in there, I'm gonna pour my salt directly in there. We'll let it dissolve, give it a quick stir. Quick and noisy stir. And then we can let it hang out. So basically here, all you have are flour, starch, and leavener. Typically, you don't really need this because they're not gonna rise too much, but when I add the starch, I like to add the leavener because it adds a bit of lift, whereas the starch would kind of weigh it down. But we're looking for a soft texture on the inside and a super crunchy texture on the outside, which is why I'm adding the starch. It smells like corn. So what we're gonna start with is just half of the amount of water. It's gonna create kind of this like shaggy, like sticky-ish dough. It's not gonna be completely smooth and uniform. And once we reach the first level, we'll add the butter. You may not end up using all of your water. It's definitely one of those trial and error type of recipes. It's really simple. There aren't a ton of ingredients, but trying to nail down the texture is really gonna be the challenge here. So now that we've got a bunch of shaggy little pieces that are sticking together, it's the perfect time to add our butter. I've let my butter soften for about 15 minutes. You don't want it to completely melt, but you want it to be really malleable. And then it's time to get our hands dirty. Roll up the sleeves. Soft to the touch, able to be cut with a spoon. And I'm gonna put it into different parts of the dough. That way it all gets very well coated. And you're gonna see this like smooth sheen kind of take over. And that's how you know the butter is adding the fat to the dry flour and making this beautiful little crust that you're gonna see on the outside. I'm gonna use one hand. Ooh, feels so fun. The heat of the water has made the dough pretty warm as well, which will melt your butter even further. And essentially, you don't want it to be a wet dough. You want it to be smooth and uniform and homogeneous. So you're basically going to add a little bit more water and simultaneously a little bit more starch that will absorb that same water until you get that exact texture. I'm gonna show you how to reach that in just a second. So this is still pretty wet. You can see the moisture kind of seeping through the little cracks of the dough, and that is not quite what we want, but we are well on our way to the finished product. So one more splash of water, a sprinkle of starch to absorb the water, And the fun thing about this recipe is you could add more butter if you wanted to. You could add more salt if you wanted to. You could do a different round of seasonings. But again, this is just the traditional way that my family would make and enjoy them. And I'm kind of a purist. I like them just plain, a little bit of butter, hot off the stove with a hot cup of coffee. Reminds me of my childhood. All right, this is too wet, so we're gonna add some more starch. And I think after that addition, we should be right where we need to be. The reason why you wanna do this with your hands is because it's very much like you're going to feel when it reaches where you need it to be. And the only way you can do that is with your hands. So this is about perfect. I'm gonna sprinkle just a little bit more. Add it in there, and you're done. We're gonna cover it with a kitchen towel. We're gonna set it on the countertop. We're gonna let it just rest for about 10 minutes. And then we're gonna shape it into smaller discs and put it right on the pan. And then we're gonna eat them. That's it. All right, ta-da! We've let our dough rest. Not much has happened, to be honest. It's not gonna look different. It's not really gonna feel very different, but what we've allowed to happen is the corn flour has absorbed the fat and the moisture from our vegan butter, and it's just gonna make it a little bit more pliable for when we form the arepas themselves. And that's exactly what we're gonna do next. So you're just gonna take it out. It should stick to itself. You should be able to press your finger into there and no dough comes back, right? It's a nice little taste test there. You could even taste the flour, or I'm sorry, the dough itself to make sure that it has the appropriate amount of salt that you want. And again, you can always salt post cooking. You could add more butter. You could stuff it with cheese. I mean, the options are really endless here. So, for lack of a better example, I'm forming them into these little pucks. You should be able to render like 5 or 6 out of the dough that we've made together here. And I'm going to place them on a plate before I put them into the pan because I want them to all cook together at the same time. If you were gonna go the Venezuelan route and stuff them, I would suggest going a little bit bigger. That way, once they're done cooking, you could cut them, leave a seam, open it, and then put whatever your little heart desires right in the center. But we're not gonna do that. Maybe on a later episode. These look fantastic. And the cool thing about this dough is that even if I were to rip a little piece off, it easily melts back into itself, which is how you know you've used the appropriate amount of water, fat, and flour. You'll notice that the recipe calls for the butter to be divided, and the remaining butter that we did not put into the dough, I poured it into my already heated pan. That way we'll get beautiful crispy edges and an easy flip when it comes time to do that. I'm gonna take 2 at a time. I'm gonna put them down. I'm gonna gently press on them, and we're gonna move as quickly as possible. Flame is on medium high. You should hear a little bit of a sizzle when you press them down. We'll set our timer for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and flip them together. Okay, arepa aficionados, it's been 10 minutes on one side, and now it's time to flip out. Just kidding, we're gonna flip inside the pan. All right, so I'm using here just a wooden spatula, which is not as ergonomic as I thought it would be, but that's okay. We're just trying to get them over to the other side. You can see that the bottom already has this beautiful brown hue, which is exactly what you want. The dough is gonna crack ever so slightly, but the center of it is going to be chewy and soft and beautiful. Once you flip them all over, we'll put another 10 minutes on the timer. We'll come back, we'll take them out, we'll top them, and we'll taste them. The best part is yet to come. I'll see you soon. Bonus points if your toppings match your ensemble. Not done on purpose, but still very fun. Alrighty, we're gonna get these babies out of our hot pan carefully, right into our serving dish. Oh my gosh, they're so fragrant and beautiful. Take a look at this bad boy. That's the exact coloring we want. And the cracking just means that the inside is growing, baking, and becoming perfect for us. How pretty this is. These are a great breakfast, they're a great snack. And I think that corn might be the superior carb for when you need quick energy for a long run. You can thank me later for that tip. All right. So here I've got some chopped avocado, a little bit of salt because avocado always needs salt, some pineapple mango salsa, yum, and then just a regular pico de gallo. Traditionally, I would eat these with a hefty spoonful of butter, some more salt, and a fresh brewed cup of coffee in the morning. I would truthfully eat that before a long run on a Saturday. It would be divine. But to make this a little bit more exciting, we're just gonna add some fun toppings. So I'm going to add the avocado first and kind of mash it in there. And the fat from that will act almost like the butter that I would slather on it if I were eating it alone. All right, we got a nice coating here. Press it in. Voila. A little bit of salt. I like to use enough salt to where it's visible on the avocado. That might be excessive for you, to each their own, okay? And then I'm gonna do a little bit of both salsas because why not? Life's too short for just one. And you're gonna watch me eat this and make a total fool of myself. It smells so good. Making a mess is part of the fun here. All right, are you ready to watch me dig into this? There are so many different things happening here, and that's what I love about this. It's just a vessel for fun and deliciousness. So you could literally top it with almost anything, and it's gonna be amazing. So, let's do it. Oh my God. Wow. Bite, swallow, and then talk. Oh my gosh. Oh. So we got just a beautiful crumb on the inside. It's melty, it's buttery, it's chewy, it's like got this beautiful aroma of corn, like a fresh made corn tortilla, which is essentially what this is. And then you have the juxtaposition of the creamy avocado and then the tart crunchiness of all the tomatoes and the salsa. Oh, it's divine. I'm gonna take another bite. You have to try this. It's so easy. I don't know why you wouldn't want to try it. It's water, it's flour, it's salt, it's a little bit of butter on a pan, bada bing, bada boom, in your mouth. It's perfect. It's a wonderful snack for any time. Without further ado, and before I make a bigger mess, you've got to screenshot the recipe. It's at the end of the video. And if you want more fun, delicious, super easy recipes just like this, subscribe to Well+Good, and I'll see you on the next one.